Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market in Deli. Tonight's special guest, we have Lesia Alexander, Animal Communicator and Energy Healer. She is going to be presenting on understanding your animals, times of change. Lesia, take the live stream floor.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I love doing this for Marlene's. I've been doing it for a few years, and it's so fun for me to look at coming back, giving some really the same message, because no matter how many times I give it, it's still important, and I have to remind myself. Um, Hold on, let me just get this off my screen here. And so this today, what I'm going to talk about when I mean times of change is that we're still in the pandemic, but we're kind of transitioning out. Things have opened up a little bit. How is that affecting our animals, and how can you help them? So, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out why this isn't working. Technology is very interesting. There we go. Okay. So, do you ever wonder what your animals are thinking? Well, my name is Lesia Alexander of Heart and Soul with Animals, and I'm an animal communicator and energy healer, and I decode animal behaviors so you have solutions that work. And before I get into telling you some tips, I just want to share with you a little bit about how I got into this work. So about 12 years ago, it was 2 years after this, my beloved soulmate died. He came to me in spirit, which wasn't unusual, while I was meditating and praying one morning, and said, "You need to do animal communication." I was like, I don't do animal communication. What are you talking about? And if anybody knows terriers, you know how insistent they are. And well, he grabbed onto that, and he wouldn't let go until I said, okay, I'll take a look. Well, I read a bunch of books. I'm like, oh, wow, I kind of really do this. I also realized that I had studied 14 years earth medicine, and that included a whole component of animal knowledge, and I did um, journeys and vision quests and animal blends. And then I had been kind of doing that with my animals for years and not realizing it was anything different than anybody else did. And then I did invest and was trained, and I've been a certified healing touch for animals practitioner for about 10 years. And then in the last 5 years, I've been studying sound healing. And then I did gemstone medicine with humans and kind of translated that to working with animals in that way. But the main thing I do is the animal communication. The other thing I just want to throw in a little bit is that when I was doing market research about this as a career, what I discovered was there were a lot of other people who had very conventional, successful careers and were called to work with animals in this way. So I think there's something going on in a bigger level that animals are here. That relationship has been for a while, but that human animal bond is really important as we go through these changing times right now. So I also want to just give a little background on the difference between communing and communicating with animals and ways in which I personally use animal communication. I think communing is something that all of us do naturally. I'm sure you remember those moments where you're laying on the couch, your cat comes up, plops on your chest, and you have this eye contact, and all of a sudden you're in the zone together and you're one with all, and it's sublime. Or when you're walking with your dog and they choose, I don't know let's say if you're doing an off-leash walk or something, and they come up right next to you of their own free will and choice, and they heal this whole walk, and you become this one unit. And again, you feel like you're in this amazing zone, and you're just connected to everything. That's communion. We do that with animals. We do that with nature. We do that with our spiritual source. Communication is a little different because it's using our perceptions, our senses, to receive information and then translate it for the purpose of helping the animal and the people together. So the main ways that I use animal communication are one, with behavior, relational, adjusting to a different life for animals, those sorts of things. So we We find out what's going on for the animal from their perspective and look at how we can meet their needs in a way that's appropriate to the household. So there's harmony. The other way that I use animal communication is with health issues. So a lot of times people will come to me and we'll take a look at what their animal is experiencing, and then I'll energetically read. I'll do a body scan or energetically read what's going on in their energy field, in their organs and such, and then in how they're experiencing that. Because normally, you when you're in your body, you don't feel your stomach. You're not even thinking about your stomach. But if they're feeling their stomach, or they have pain in their stomach, that's something that then they can take to the vet and have the vet look at. And conversely, sometimes they'll go to the vet and then they'll come back and get some, energy work support or more information with me. And my specialty, and those of you who were here early as I was talking with Elizabeth, is working what I call the last chapter. So seeing your animals as they head towards the end, and also the transition time. And I have been at many euthanasias, and then also support for the people afterwards. So that whole process, that is one of the areas that is my specialty. And I think it's really important to honor that, because I think we have I'm just going to say, an interesting perspective on death and dying in our culture. So, okay, so we're not out of the pandemic yet. We're starting to get out and about more. A lot of people, at least that's my perception. But that means that our animals are at home alone more. And so how is it that we can support them in that transition? And what I know, and I did a talk here at Marlene's, I think it was 2 talks ago, at the very beginning of the pandemic. And what I discovered was the animals were like really inundated, like just flooded with fear from in the house and outside. And all they were amazing how they rallied and helped with all that stuff. Of course, we humans don't always see all the things that they do. And they've done tremendous work, and they're still doing a lot of work. So I think it's really our turn to help them as we transition away from home, because that is tough. They've gotten used to a lot of things. So how exactly is it that we can support them, prevent stress, and prevent coming home to a mess that looks like this? Because if they're stressed, they're scared, that's what they do. They let us know. And how do they let us know? They act out. And I think that all behavior is communication. I think it's a really important thing when dealing with animals to remember that. So this is my go-to. In any talk I ever do, I always say, talk to your animals. In this particular case, not everybody's going to have a lifestyle change or a schedule change. But if you're one of those people that is starting to do things, or maybe even you're going on vacation and you haven't gone for a year, so that's going to be a change for your animals. Let them know things are changing, how and when, to the best of your abilities. You might not know exactly when, but you'll say, well, I know that, in the next month or two, these things are going to happen. Very, very important. And then let them know what you're doing and why. So this is something that I say do even when we're not in a pandemic, but it's especially important if they're transitioning, if you're transitioning from not being at home a lot. So examples of that are, let's say, I know people right now who are going to yoga class, started going to a yoga class. So when you go to the yoga class, before you go, you say to your animals, I'm going to yoga. And you let them know, I'm doing this because it makes me feel really good. And then when you come back, they're going to be able to smell the endorphins or whatever. They're going to be able to tell, oh, you did this and you're happier now. That makes them happy. And when you're happy, they're happy. And then these next 2 things are such a foundational thing for behavior issues with animals at any time, pandemic or not, is let them know what you expect and want from them. And always use positive affirmation. We as humans, I'm right there. The first thing I go to is, don't do that. I don't want you to do that, whether it's my husband or my cat. I'm telling you what not to do because I don't like it, right? But that really doesn't work. So it's really important to look at what it is that you want them to do. So when you have a cat that tends to jump up on the counter, right? And you say, get off the counter, right? What they're seeing, and what do you see in your head when you see your cat on the counter? You want him to get off. You see the image you have is your cat on the counter. So that's what your cat sees, and they're thinking, well, yeah, I'm on the counter. That's the right thing, isn't it? The thing to do is positively affirm, oh, Jeff, you are such a good cat. I'm so glad you're cooperating and staying in your territory in the house. And I've got my territory up here. I'm so glad that you're staying in your territory. So that's works so much better. And with dogs really need to know what they're supposed to do. And when they do the things you want them to do, I use this word, flood them with affirmation, whether it's treats, love, whatever. You know, when animals know what's going on and what to expect, they feel secure and safe, and they feel like they belong. So let me share with you a story about Marlo. Marlo was an elderly dog. The boys had grown up. The two boys had left home. It was just Mom at home. Mom was going out and doing more things. And Marla was getting anxious and was starting to have anxiety. So Mom did not want to make it worse, so she would sneak out of the house sometime. Well, that actually made it worse. And then she went away for this is before the pandemic. She went away, and her house sitter, when she came back, said, you know, Marla wouldn't even take treats. So her mom got worried because you could tell Marla was really anxious. Took her to the vet. Vet said, you know, her hearing's going a little bit, her eyesight's going a little bit. You know, she's getting old, but there's nothing wrong with her. She's really healthy. So what she did is she went, and that's where the animal communication part comes in. And when we worked together, and what it turned out is that Marlo would like wake up sometimes, she would just not know what was going on. And so her mom, her person, started to tell her, I'm going to yoga, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, okay? She started to tell her, oh, we're having guests this weekend. 2 people coming for this long. Oh, we're having some remodeling. This is going to go on a couple of days. So it took a few weeks for Marlo to catch on, but when she caught on, she was like, oh, okay. So then she would know, oh, Mom's going to yoga, and Mom would come back, and she would know, oh, those are the yoga smells. You know, she started to really enjoy knowing what her person was doing, and so she felt in the loop, and she didn't feel as anxious. So that's just one example of how this really helps. So some of you may think to yourselves, I talk to my animals all the time. Well, when I say talk, I actually mean communicate. You know, when we talk, we have intentions. When we talk, a lot of times we have pictures. And that's what our animals are getting. They're picking up the inflections in our voice. They're picking up the emotions. They're picking up the pictures. But if you really want to get the message across to your animals, you want to use all your senses. And I say that we actually have 10 senses. We have 10 physical senses, and we have 10 energetic senses. And let's take the sense of smell. So you let's say you're in a coffee shop and you smell the coffee, right? That's your sense of smell. But let's say you're sitting there and you're having a memory of a time when you smelled beautiful roses. Well, those roses aren't in the room, but inside of you, you can smell that rose. So that's the energetic sense. So to the best of your abilities, use your senses when you communicate with your animals. So, I'll tell you another story. There was and this is going to combine the talking and the imagery. We'll call the cat Jeff. So, young couple, they had a small house and they had a cat and they had a good life together. And then they moved. They got a bigger house, and the cat started spraying. And they tried all these different things, and it didn't work. So they tried animal communication. And when I talked with Jeff, it turned out that he was a skittish, nervous, sensitive cat that he did not like when people came over. And one of the reasons they got a bigger house is they loved to entertain, and now they could have dinner parties. Well, Jeff did not like people just showing up in his turf, and he was letting his people know. So what the people did, they let him know ahead of time that the people when they were going to come, how many people. And they started saying to him, oh, Jeff, you're such a good cat. I'm so glad that you're using the litter box and that you're cooperating and remembering that that's your place to use the litter box. Now, this may be a little graphic for some of you, but if you send that they sent Jeff the imagery, the picture of him in the litter box peeing, the sound of it, and the feeling, because we're mammals, we have the same function of what that feels like in the litter box, and then flooded him with, whenever they sent him that picture this, oh, what a great guy. So he was getting all of that communication at the same time, and it took it doesn't happen one time, but after a while he was like, oh, that's what they want, and I'm not getting triggered by these people just showing up because I know they're coming and I can go upstairs and hang out in the closet, which they didn't usually let him hang out in. But when the people came, they opened it up, put a little cushion in there, and then for the most part, the acting out behavior stopped. But it really helps to use all your senses. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about today, I want to get back to how can we help our animals transition from you being home all the time and not being home as much, and maybe a lot not being home. The first thing is that do it incrementally. So slowly get them used to time at home alone. And start with small outings and incrementally build up. So that is going to be different for each one of you depending on what your lifestyle is like, what your schedule is like, how you're doing that, who your animals are. But just kind of come up with something that, so that it's not like you're going to be gone. You're going to have been home for like a year and a half, and all of a sudden you're gone 4 days. That's a little rough. So start having outings, maybe half a day, and let them know, hey, I'm going out, I'm coming back. Okay. And here's how we're going to take care of you. And when you do the longer outings, send them what I call energetic emails. And this is like, let's say you're going to be gone for 4 hours. Set your timer for 2 hours. And in 2 hours, when your alarm goes off, just pause and think about your animal or animals and just say, hey, I love you. I'm having a great time. I know you're at home. I'm coming home in 2 hours and we'll do X, Y, Z, whatever. And send them those little thinking of you or I love yous. And we do this with people, but we don't realize animals need this too. And you remind them, I'm going to be home at such and such a time, and that if you're going to be late, you might send them a little message like, hey, you could just pause and kind of imagine yourself. You could even imagine yourself being at home or imagine a picture of them in front of you and say, hey, Trent, I know you're at home and I'm out here. And I know I said I'd be home at 4 o'clock, but I'm stuck in traffic. And they'll feel like I can't do anything about it. So I'm going to be later. I think it's going to be about half an hour. Or, I realized I need to pick something else up. Hey, I need to pick up treats for you. I forgot, or whatever, whatever it is. I forgot to do something and I need to take care of that. And then something like, hey, and then the thing you can also say is, I know, like when you're in traffic, say, I'm so sorry, I can't do anything about this. But if you can do something about it, you can say, I know that you're in the zone where you don't need to pee yet. You don't, it's not your feeding time yet. So I know you're okay. So I'm going to go run another errand, or I just ran into somebody and I'm going to meet them in the park or whatever, your level of meeting somebody is during this pandemic time. I want to visit with this person, so I'm going to be half an hour late. It seems silly in some ways, but it is a respectful thing to do, and do trust that they hear that. Really trust that they hear that, because I do animal communication. I do it at a distance, and I tell people whether they're 3 feet apart, 3 miles apart, 300,000 miles apart, it doesn't matter, because we're not talking the kind of language that we're talking right now here, the kind you can hear with your ears. We're talking that other level of energy. So the other thing that is really important I think, is to look at what kind of activities are going to be diminished or stopped because of your schedule changes. And so what I recommended to clients who are wanting to talk to me about this is make a list of the old activities all the activities that you were doing with your animals, that you aren't going to be able to do or that are going to diminish. Make that list and then write down what needs were being met. Some of them, the needs won't matter, and some other, like you might say, well, I was home, like I'm home all day, and half the day they spent with me while I was working on my laptop. You could say, well, for that may or may not make a difference depending on who your animals are, depending on what kind of needs, your animals. So make a list and then look at what needs were being met. Then make a new list and of how you could meet those needs now that you're going to be gone. So it may be that for a cat, for example, having you go through your daily stuff was quite entertaining for them. They're like, oh yeah, that, and now you're going to be gone and their entertainment's gone. So it may be that you need to do more play with them when you do come home so they don't get bored and destructive. So, that's just a little example there. And then plan these activities into your schedule. It's like any relationship. There's some we give and take. We need to give a little bit with this change. And what I think what will happen, and I haven't had enough time to see how this works, but that as you get back to a different schedule, you're home less. Like at first you're going to be gone less, but doing more activities. But then as they get used to it and start to trust, oh yeah, okay, so they're gone, but I'm getting this other extra fun thing. So some of these activities, make them a little extra juicy so that you're sort of compensating for the fact that you're gone. And when you leave, let's say you're leaving, you're going to be gone a really long time, and your dog is giving you that look like that dog in that picture there, like you're going to be gone. You can say, yes, but tonight I'll be gone, and you won't have that time with me. You would cuddle on my lap while, whatever you were doing, or we'd go out 3 times a day. I know that's not going to be happening anymore, but when I get home tonight or tomorrow, we're going to have that really long walk. So, something like that. So, or we're going to have this absolutely brand new activity. And dogs, especially as pack animals, they really like being in a pack. So being alone more is going to be especially hard on them. And one of the you could remind them of the trade-off. You can say, I know you're going to be alone more, but guess what? We're going to be able to go more places. We're going to have change of scene where there's going to be more people and more dogs. So more smells, more social connection. Because a lot of people took fabulous walks with their dogs all over the place into nature, but they didn't have that social piece because we couldn't, and so now that's going to happen. So you could remind them, and I know we haven't been able to visit, XYZ people and their dogs that were friends of you and your dog. Now we're going to get to visit with them, and so you kind of remind them of what they're going to gain. And again, using all those sense levels to remind them of that. Now with cats, I would say the cats that are both indoor outdoor cats, they're the ones that are probably the least affected by this because they have been able to take space when they need it and be with people when they need it. They may not have gotten in the wintertime their cozy space to themselves the way they would have liked, but they certainly have had a lot of freedom of choice to meet their own needs. But a cat who's only indoors, they're completely dependent on you, water, food, affection, entertainment, stimulation, play, all those different things. So I would say if you're going to be gone more, make sure to spend a little extra time with play and affection with them, and then also come up with some juicier, fun things to do with them and remind them, I know I'm going to be gone, but we're going to do this special thing, whatever it is, and, you can research out, there's all kinds of things out there to figure out what to do. So I want to share with you in the spirit of this, a story about a cat. This was actually before the pandemic, but I think it's very, it would work for today. A woman had a cat. She adored this cat, but the cat was really bothering her while she was working. She kept she kept getting in front of many cats will in front of the computer, but she was just really bothering her a lot. So when we worked with the cat, what was going on? We found out that this woman didn't really like to play. She wasn't a playful personality. She loved to cuddle. She loved to do all these things with her cat, but she didn't play. And the cat needed more stimulation and play. Oh yeah, and then what happened is, that's right, she initially then closed the door of the office, and then the cat started really bugging her because they slept together, but started really hassling her when she was sleeping. So she was losing sleep, and that's when she came to me. So we determined that she needed to play. And this woman was like, I don't like playing. It's just annoying. So, but she committed, and twice a week, she started out with, I think, 2 or 3 times a week, and she literally would time herself for 4 minutes. It was amazing, just like 2 or 3 times a week doing that. Things started to change. And the beautiful things about all these things that are recommended to really help your animals are all things that help us. Her playing with her cat helped her to lighten up, helped her to bond with her cat, and helped her to learn how to play. And then she started doing it more, and the whole relationship changed. And then she was able to say to her cat when she was working, "Hey, I'm working now. You get 3 chances, and if you don't give me space, I'm going to close the door." And she would have boundaries, and then she'd say, "Remember, because I'm going to play with you tomorrow night," or whatever it is, whatever you set up. And the thing is, when you set up structures of what to do, the recommendation is make sure it's something that is doable for you. Don't promise your animal every day we're going to go for a beautiful walk if that's not realistic for you in your life. Make a promise that you can keep, because keeping the promise is really important. And that goes along with this idea that you are calm, peaceful, confident, and in charge. This is really important for relationships with animals. If you're not calm, if you're not in charge, if you're not confident about taking care of them, they're going to be very anxious. And I can do a whole slide on just your feelings are for you, but I'm just going to briefly go over that, so that that's because that's part of being in charge. Being in charge means that you have feelings, and you let your animals know, yeah, I'm feeling mad, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling glad, whatever. And those are my feelings for me, and you don't have to take them on. You don't have to take care of me. Because when you do that, then you give them permission to do their jobs, their real jobs with you. And you give them permission to come to you of their own free will to comfort you when you need comforting. But they don't take it on, because when they take it on, they're ending up feeling these feelings, and then they're more afraid or more angry or more sad. And then you amplify each other emotionally, and it just doesn't do anybody any good. So there's something about sort of being in charge. And definitely reassure them that you love and care for them, even when you have a lot of emotions going on, which, hey, we're human. Of course we do. You can say, I'm going through this. I love you, and I'm taking care of you. And right now I'm doing this thing over here for me. And along with this is always follow through when you make promises to your animals, because that's like the key thing to trust and to their sense of security. If you don't follow through, they're going to get anxious, because they're not going to know, well, are my needs going to be met? And then they're going to act out. And if you can't follow through, which all of us, that happens, guess what? There's a plethora of animal professionals who can do it for you. Whether it's taking the walk, whether it's coming in and playing with your cat, whatever it is, there are lots of people who can do it. And of course you'll miss once in a while, but if you know you can't do it, have somebody else do it. And you can say to your animal, I know you wanted to do that with me. I couldn't do it. I was doing something else, but I made sure that you got your needs met, because you're really important, and I want you to be happy. When you're happy, they're happy. When they're happy, you're happy. It's a beautiful amplification. So before I guide you through a little guided meditation and take some volunteers, so that we can, those of you who are having some things you want to talk about, some issues with your animals, we'll have 3 people if we have the time, and I'll give you a little feedback on that. I just really wanted to thank you all for being here. Anybody who sees this, thank you for this, for being here, and for your interest in animals and for the human-animal bond. I believe that. I really do believe our relationships with our animals make us better people, and of course, better people make a better world. So I want to really share that appreciation with you. And as ever, I want to thank Marlene's for the work they do in educating people and in bringing these different kinds of information to people to make this world a better place, a healthier place, so that we all have wellness, humans and animals. And as a way of showing my appreciation, I wanted to offer you all a little checklist that I created. And now that people are getting out and about and traveling more, I mean, there's lots of people camping. I mean, there's all different ways to be safe and travel these days. I'd like to offer you a little what I call a vacation checklist, otherwise known as how to support your animals when you're gone. And it's before, during, and after you take time off. It's a really nice little checklist. So I wanted to thank you by offering you that. And if you're interested in that, just put your contact information, email for sure, in the chat box. And I also like to offer 3 what I call getting to know you discovery sessions. And those are complimentary 30-minute phone conversations where we talk about your top issues with your animals, and then we take a look to see if there's a fit for us to work together. The other way you're going to get a sense of whether it's a fit to work with me is when we do a little bit of, we'll have a few people volunteer their animals, and we'll see what kind of situation, what the animal has to say. So that will also give you a little flavor. So what I want to do next is a little guided meditation where you're going to ask for if you have more than one animal, for the animal that is the most sensitive, that has the most difficulty adjusting to change, or if you only have one animal, well then that one animal that as your lifestyle changes, and I don't know how much it's changing, but what I do know is that the social, I don't know what to call it, the world sort of attitude and energy, it is changing. We were super scared in the beginning. We're still scared, but not in the same way. Things have changed. There's more hope. It's a different time. So whatever it is, whatever change is going to happen for you, it's going to affect your animals. So we're gonna take a look at that. So I'm going to put a nice little slide here in the background for our guided meditation. And so anybody who's listening to this, I'm going to ask you to just, relax wherever you're sitting, or if you're laying down, and take 3 deep breaths. And now listen to the sounds outside your room, wherever you are. Listen to the sounds inside your room. Listen to the sound of your own breath. And listen to the sound of your heartbeat. And now place into your heart center everything that you love. People, places, things, moments in time, activities, dewdrops on the grass, spiral galaxies, animals, children. And allow that love to become light. And when that light that is love is filling your heart center and spilling over, allow that light to saturate your whole being. All of you. And now take a portion of this light that is love, send it down to the core of the earth, and ask Mother Earth if you might anchor in. And when you're anchored in, staying anchored in, bring that light back up and let this light saturate your whole being. And now take a portion of this light and send it up to your brightest star, your spiritual source star, and ask if you might anchor in there. Staying connected, bring that light down through your crown and let this light saturate your whole being. And now take the light from above and below and allow it to merge in your heart center and become one and saturate your whole being. Now in your heart center, find a special place. If you go in there, you'll find there's a very special place. It could be a gazebo in a garden. It could be a gazebo in the galaxies. It could be a little cave under the tree roots. A very special place. And know that in this special place, only that which is for your best and highest good, and for your family and animals and territory's best and highest good may come to pass. Only those, the best and highest good. And now invite your animal, your pet, the one that you feel like you want to work with today, into this place with you. And remember that this may feel like it's just imagination, but what I and many others call the imaginal realm, in the brain is exactly the same as real life. And so trust that something is really happening and that your animals can feel this. And imagine that in this place, they can understand you and can communicate with you. So when you're here with your beloved animal companion, your pet, thank them for coming there to this special place, and ask them, what's the most important thing for them as life is changing? What do they most need? What's the most important need they have that you can help them with? And allow them to communicate that to you and trust that they understand. And maybe they'll, like a dog, might go over and grab something and bring it to you. Or maybe you'll get a picture. They'll send you a picture. Or maybe they'll come over and touch you. And just receive whatever they have to give. And since there are just a few of us here, maybe if you don't know what it means, we can talk about it afterwards. So just receive what they have to give. What do they need? And is it something mental? Is it something emotional? Is it something spiritual? Do they need something about their purpose? Or is it something physical? Do they need a certain kind of exercise, play, walk? Do they need calm, peacefulness? Let them show you. Do they need for you to remember that they're doing a lot of work that you don't know about and they want to be appreciated for that? Do they want you to see how incredibly good looking they are? Oh my goodness. So thank your animals for showing up and working with you as such incredible partners. And go ahead and you can go ahead and leave this place now. Thank the beautiful place. Maybe you and your animal can come back into this room. And I'll help you do that by asking you to listen to the sound of your own heartbeat. Listen to the sound of your own breath. Listen to the sounds inside the room. And listen to the sounds outside the room. And come on back. All right, does anybody want to share? Well, actually, this is being recorded. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see if there's not that many, at least not on the Zoom part of this, what we're doing. I'm going to see if there's anybody who wants to volunteer their beloved animal and come up and share a little bit about what's going on if there's something they want some support with. And we've got a few minutes for that, and then I wanted to see if there are any questions also.